All right, in this video, we're going to talk about cloning projects and bringing them over from GitHub. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about Flask and end up with a couple other things that are important. So first thing we want to do is I've closed all my projects, and this is just PyCharm saying what's the first thing we want to do. And so I'm going to say we want to clone a repository. So we're going to say clone repository. We're going to leave it here, and we're just going to get it right from URL. So in GitHub, we want to grab the repository from GitHub. Okay. So if we go to GitHub, let me just pull GitHub up, and we look at repositories. So we're going to go here, and we're going to click on repositories. Okay. And then in the repository, you're going to see this one called module 2 start, and it's a public repository. That's what we're going to start with module 2, okay? And in the GitHub repository, we're going to click on the little green button, and we're going to grab the clone link, okay? So we got our clone link. All right, and then we're going to just paste that clone link right into the GitHub or right into the URL here. And then down here under the directory, we want to give a good name. I don't want it to be module 2 start. I want you to give it a name, and I want your name to be your number for your class. So if this is an undergrad class, it would be CBIS 4210, and then underscore, okay? And then this is module 2, so module 02, underscore, your last name, and then demo, okay? That's what I want you, the naming standard for you to do this, okay? So that's what I want the naming standard to be, okay? Name of your class, what module it is, and then that you're working on the demo. Okay, this is the demo for in class. And then I'm going to click clone. Okay, give it a second, and I'm going to trust the project. And then I'm going to bring it over so you could see what it's doing. Now, right off the bat, you can see that it's, let's just see that it's getting all the work done. Okay. And right off the bat, we see that it does not have a venv folder, okay, like we did before, okay? Sometimes they bring them over, sometimes they don't, okay? You'll notice in the repository there wasn't one in there, so it probably didn't think to even bring one over. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one. So I can either click down here under No Interpreter, and I can just come down and add a new interpreter, a new local interpreter, okay? And I want a new one, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, okay? So I want to create a new interpreter, okay? It's going to be a virtual environment. The base Python that we're going to use is 3.12, okay? And then where is it going to go? Well, I just made the folder CVIS 4210 mod 2 Marshall demo, and this is the folder here, okay? venv, well, .venv. I like the dot. Dot makes it hidden on most machines, okay? So I'm going to click OK, and it's going to build that virtual environment, okay? And it's going to add the interpreter. All right, so right off the bat, we have our virtual, we have our interpreter, and we have our virtual environment. Now, if the virtual environment's open, close it. Do not put anything into the virtual environment, okay? That's the first rule, okay? So we're going to have lots of rules. Make sure you write that down. Leave the virtual environment alone. Don't make any changes to the virtual environment, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about Flask. Flask is a web-based application framework, okay? So the files that you have to start with right here, these starting files are great start to your application, okay? So let's talk about some of them. The first one is this app.py, okay? So app.py, it has just basic code that you'll never touch. So don't mess with app.py. Okay. Now, notice up here it says package requirements, install requirements. What that means is Flask needs to be installed. So if I click on the terminal, notice that I have my venv right over here. That means that I'm actually in my virtual environment right now, and it's activated. All right. So I'm going to go pip install Flask. And it's going to go through this whole process. It's going to go out and grab all the Flask framework, and it's going to install Flask. Okay, notice it grabbed these packages: Markup Safe, It's Dangerous, Colorama, Blinker, all of them, and it put them all in here. Now, that is how you install, okay, Flask. That's the Flask framework. That's how all this is going to work. All right. Let's take a look at the proc file. Now, actually, I think we're going to hold off on talking about the proc file till lesson 2. But for lesson 1, let's talk about app.py. You'll never change app.py. Even if ChatGPT or someone else tells you, don't change app.py. Okay, let's come inside here and let's look at some of these other files. First, we have the init file. Okay, this init file __init___.py. Okay, it is right inside this app file. So it's at the same. It's like the first file inside the app folder. Okay, all right. This init file is probably the most important file. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure that those all get installed, so we're good. All right. In this file, it creates the app, adds a secret key, and imports the routes. Okay? All pretty important stuff. For now, we don't mess with the init file. We will in the future. We'll add a couple more things here. But for right now, we're not doing that. Okay? All right. This app factory, really basic app factory, we don't mess with the app factory. Okay? The app factory, it works with the init file together, and it goes and works with app. Okay, so those 3 files for right now, we don't change. Let's talk about the routes file. The routes file is a cool little file to get started with. All right, and we have 2 routes. Okay, a route is a URL on our website. So whatever our website is, brianmarshall.com/nothing, that's going to open up our index file. /about, no dot anything on the end of it, is going to open up the about.html template. Okay. So that's what we want. We want to just say that that's the routes file. We'll talk about this a little bit more. We also have a templates folder, and this is where our HTML files sit. And we have a static folder, and this is where we can put pictures. I have them inside static, assets, and then a picture. Okay, so that's the whole structure. It's very important. Very important that all of these are named in lowercase with no spaces. All of them. Okay, except procfile. Procfile is capitalized with no extension. All the rest of them are all lowercase with no spaces, or it will mess up all your stuff. Okay, even your asset name, the name of your file, no spaces, all lowercase. Okay, all right. That is what we want to talk about for lesson 1. This is the Flask framework. Your framework always needs to look like this. So you'll grab the clone, okay? I guess I should show you that too. So after you grab the clone, you're going to have, if you go over to Git and manage remotes, you're going to have a remote in there, but that remote's going to be me. Okay? That's my Git, okay? So you need to hit subtract and get rid of the remote, okay? Then you go back up here and you go to Git and you go GitHub, share project on GitHub. Okay, just like we did before, and that's what you're going to be turning in. Okay, and keep it private so no one else can see your stuff, and then click share. Okay, that's how you push your stuff out to GitHub as it's been making changes and stuff like that. All right, so this has been lesson 1 of module 2. How do you clone projects? What is the Flask and the Flask folder structure? And then what is I guess we can talk about local. So if I come back down here, I can go Python app.py, and it's going to take Python and it's going to run this app right here. Okay. And if I hit enter, it's going to run it locally. Okay. And once it's running locally, I can bring it over here and show you. Notice how it's going to be running at 127.0.0.1 : which means port number 5000. Okay. And if I click on home, click on about, it jumps back and forth. Those are my 2 routes. Home, nothing, /nothing, or about, /about. Okay. And it's just loading up those 2 routes. Okay. That's how you can test your application locally. And notice every time I click something, it came down here and it was throwing more. It was like giving you a log of what was going on. To get out of this, it's either Command C or Control C. Okay. So now I'm out of it, and all right. So Now I'm back out of it. Okay, Control C, I'm out of it, and I can do more commands. And if I hit the up arrow, I can see all of my commands that I've typed in the past. Okay, all right, that's lesson 1.